Hey everybody, welcome to this edition. It's Jim, it's Amadeus, and it's a playoff Tuesday. So, Amadeus, here we are, NBA playoffs, or should we say play-ins, start tonight.
Yeah, it's an exciting day. Obviously, the NHL, their season ends on Thursday and they get right into the playoffs. But the NBA last year, they introduced this new little play-in tournament to expand to the from 8 seeds to 10 seeds in each conference. And for anybody out there who doesn't know how it works, tonight we have the Western Conference going, and tomorrow will be the Eastern Conference. But pretty much so, the Lakers and the Pelicans are the 7-8 seed game, while the Warriors Kings are the 9-10. And so what happens is the winner of Lakers Pelicans, so the 7-8 seed, the winner of that game moves on to the seventh place spot in the in the Western Conference. They'll get the seventh seed and face the Nuggets. And then the loser of that game has to play again against the winner of the 9-10 game, so the winner of the Warriors Kings game. And basically, what would happen is the loser of the Warriors Kings is eliminated. The winner moves on to play the loser of Lakers Pelicans, and then the winner of that game would get the eighth seed against OKC in the first round. And then same goes for tomorrow with the Heat Sixers being 7-8 seed and Hawks Bulls being 9-10.
There you go. And tonight's games, if you want to watch them, and I know many of you do, it's on TNT and it's streaming on Max tomorrow. It's ESPN and streaming on ESPN Plus. So there's where you can find it. Let's take a look. I mean, you and I spoke last week about this, and it looked like it was going to be the the Warriors and the Lakers, but a funny thing happened en route to that. A couple other teams had some designs on shaking things up again, and so now the Warriors go to play in Sacramento, and the Lakers hang out in New Orleans.
Yeah, honestly, it looked like that for a few weeks. The Lakers and the Warriors were kind of in their own bubble. Even the Rockets were there threatening the Warriors for that 10th spot. And then at some point, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, both
Mm-hmm.
teams just flipped a switch. They finished way ahead of the Rockets. It wasn't even a concern of them getting kicked out. And then we started to see teams like the Pelicans and the Kings fumble down the line, and here we are. As you said, the Lakers fought so hard. They got themselves into that eighth seed and now are in a
Mm-hmm.
position where they just have to win one game and get in versus having to win two.
Which is a lot simpler. That's definitely what you want. You want an opportunity to win that game, get in the playoffs, and get a little rest.
Yeah, definitely. It's always a good thing to have. But even if you lose this game, I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
not end of the world. A great example would be, the first year they introduced this thing last year, we saw the Miami Heat lose in the 7-8
Mm-hmm.
game just to beat the Bulls in the next game after, and then they went on a run to the finals.
Right.
Got destroyed by the Nuggets in the finals. They went to the finals.
Hey, that's what counts. The finals. That's all you want to do. Get there. How will you get there? Doesn't matter. Just get there. So you got that going on, and on the east side, it's basically, I don't know. You're the expert on this. It looks like both those matchups are toss-ups.
Yeah, honestly, a lot of these matchups are toss ups. Even the one today, both games today, the spread is 2.5 or less for both games.
Mhm.
And then even tomorrow, we're looking at 4.5 point favorite 76ers and 3 point favorite for the Bulls. So definitely, they don't expect a specific team to win any of these games. The 76ers would be the largest favorite on the board out of these first four games. And they are at home, and I believe they've won 7 or 8 straight now coming into the playoffs. So um, I mean, we'll see what happens in that game. Personally, I think it doesn't matter who loses the Heat Sixers game, because whoever loses will likely beat the other team, whether it's the Hawks or the Bulls, I think,
Mhm.
let's be real, the Hawks and the Bulls are the only two teams in either conference in this play-in tournament that finished the season under 500. So, you do the math. The Heat and Sixers are playoff teams while the Hawks and Bulls aren't. So,
There you go. So, from the standpoint of these teams, I think in many ways this is kind of like the wild card situation in baseball or football. You want to be hot, and do you? I mean, I don't really think that there's any fall off if a team gets, in this case, an NBA team gets a week off while they're waiting to find out how things shake down in the playoffs. Playing games. I'm sorry.
yeah, that is one thing to consider that the series start up on Saturday, obviously, and a lot of these teams would have played their last game on, I believe it was the Sunday there. And so, yeah, the momentum factor becomes the thing, but I agree with you. I think it's one of those where an NBA team can win by 20 on any given night. We've seen
Hmm.
it many times. We saw it in the
Yep.
playoffs last year where it felt like it was just back and forth. One team would win by 20, the other team would win by 20. So I totally agree with you. Momentum is great, like how the
Hmm.
76ers are playing right now. But at the end of the day, if you have the better players on your team, you should be able to get up for a specific game.
They better. If you had to pick a dark horse out of these teams that are playing not just tonight but tomorrow, um, of the four teams that are playing tonight and tomorrow, I guess it'd be 8 teams all total. Is there one team out of that grouping that you feel you wouldn't want to play?
One team I wouldn't want to play, probably the 76ers for sure, just because
Hmm.
of the momentum they've been gaining. And really, the 76ers were the third best team in the East before they started sliding down when they
Hmm.
lost Joel Embiid. We haven't really seen the real 76ers team in months. We've really
Right.
just started to see it now because they also made those acquisitions to try and fill the hole that Embiid was leaving when he was injured. They picked up Kyle Lowry, a guy obviously Nick Nurse won a championship with and knows well. And they have a bunch of other great players like, Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris. So I think the 76ers team is very dangerous. It's going to be an interesting match because the Heat always play them tough. And
Hmm.
4.5 is a little much. I think the Sixers win the game, but I wouldn't be shocked if it's a very close game in that sense. But yeah, the Sixers, I think they get through the Heat. I think they're going to be a very dangerous team. And honestly, if we really want a dark horse, because a lot of these games are kind of like pick'ems, but here's a fun one for you. I think the Hawks might. I know I said the 76ers and the Heat are the playoff teams and most likely to be in there. But if we're speaking, dark horse just for fun, maybe a bit of a long shot, I would honestly take the Hawks because they're kind of in the same situation as the 76ers. I know they don't have any momentum and they've been terrible to end the season with 6 straight losses, I believe. But the Hawks are a team like the 76ers where they've been missing Trae Young for quite some time. And I don't think we've really seen this real healthy Hawks team. So it wouldn't shock me. The Bulls are a totally beatable team. They finished under 500. It wouldn't shock me if they won that game and then maybe even knocked out the Heat if they had to play them in the next game. If they have to face the Sixers, I don't know if they get through, but I could see them taking out the Heat just because the Heat haven't impressed really. And we saw it in these final few weeks of the seasons. You want to talk about momentum. Well, the Heat were one of those teams. They were in a position to finish top 6 and lock up an actual playoff spot. But here they are once again, like last year, in this situation where they got to play in the play-in tournament.
And there you go, boys and girls. All right, so let's move on to some crazy stuff going on in Champions League.
Yeah, so we got a big Champions League day. Obviously, the first legs of these matchups were last week, and We had a lot of wild ones. So the two matches today, we have Barcelona versus PSG. Barcelona's at home, and they're leading 3-2 on aggregate from that first leg last week. So very, high scoring match there. And Barcelona really, they don't need to come into this game and win. They just need to draw. And if they draw, then if they win, great. But if they draw, they're still winning on aggregate. So really, the onus is on PSG in this match to push. The other one today is Borussia Dortmund hosting Atletico Madrid. Atletico Madrid leads 2-1 on aggregate. So a little bit of an opposite situation here, where you have the home team that's losing and needs to win the game here. Madrid actually, Atletico Madrid dominated Dortmund in that first leg at home, but Dortmund squeaked out a late goal to cut that lead in half, and now they've set themselves up very nicely for this home leg. So those are the two matches in Champions League to watch today. Tomorrow, we have arguably the better matchups for sure. We have Bayern Munich and Arsenal tomorrow. Bayern Munich hosting Arsenal. They are tied 2-2 on aggregate from that first leg. So again, very high scoring matchup. And now Bayern goes home. We just saw Arsenal lost 2-0 to Aston Villa over the weekend in the Premier League. So that's going to be an interesting one. Arsenal is a team that they're one of the favorites behind Man City to win this competition, or they were coming into this round. Whereas Bayern Munich, a lot of people don't view them as a good team anymore. They're not dominating Germany this year as they normally would, but this is still a team I picked going into the round of 16 to win Champions League. So we'll see what happens in that one. Should be a very exciting matchup, but that's not even the best one of the day, because tomorrow we also have Manchester City and Real Madrid. City will be hosting Real Madrid, and those teams are tied 3-3 on aggregate. So you can only imagine the kind of match we got last week in that first leg.
Yeah, pretty amazing. And we're at the point where basically the cream of the crop is left in the Champions League, right?
Yes, absolutely. And it's kind of funny because if you asked me, even going into last week, like after watching what happened in those first legs, my mind hasn't changed. In my opinion, I think the four best teams left in the tournament are tomorrow. So Bayern, Arsenal, Man City, Real Madrid. And obviously, two of them are playing against each other. Whereas I think the games today, Dortmund, Atletico Madrid, Barcelona, and PSG, I think those are actually the four weakest teams left in the tournament. So very interesting setup here. But I think tomorrow's matches are going to be a little more exciting for sure. But I think we're still going to get exciting matches today. But absolutely, we're down to the cream of the crop now.
So now I know that this is one of those things where you never know what's going to happen, but it's do you again? We'll go to the dark horse. Who would surprise you if they just kind of came out of nowhere and won this tournament?
PSG, I think, would be a shock, specifically because they're losing 3-2 on aggregate. So they would have to go into Barcelona today and do some real damage. But they have the talent. And you got to remember, it's Mbappe's last year. They had so many good teams with Mbappe and Messi, and they've never done anything in Champions League. They always find a way to choke. So that would honestly, if PSG finds a way to pull, because Barcelona's been great recently, and they have a lot of talent on their team, but man, they can be shaky at times. So if PSG finds a way to go in there today and beat Barcelona, then that would definitely be a bit of a shock if they made a run to the finals and won. But I like I said, it could definitely happen because they have a quality team, and maybe they're motivated to win because it's obviously Mbappe is going to be leaving in the summertime. But that would be a shock for sure to see PSG make a run here.
It's funny. After all of the teams that PSG had, to think of them as a dark horse, right? I mean, it's kind of like thinking we just spoke with the Lakers and the Warriors. I mean, there's no doubt that the Lakers and the Warriors, it's going to take a heavy lift to get either of those teams into the title. game, but we just think of them as automatics, right? And there's PSG would be, as you say, would be a big it'd be a big deal if they got there. But then I guess we always expect them to be there.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of funny. They always put up the team, and sometimes it's just a matter of choking, right? Like we
Hmm.
saw Arsenal on the weekend. They had a chance. Liverpool lost in the morning. They saw that loss. They had a chance to go ahead of Man City by 1 point, and be leading the Premier League at the end of this week. And what did they go and do? They go and drop the ball. They lose 2-0 at home to Aston Villa. And this was right around the time last year they started to choke. So, sometimes it doesn't matter how good the team is, right? We always
Yeah.
talk about how playoff experience and championship pedigree, all of that is important. But sometimes you gotta look at it the other way too. Sometimes a team that consistently chokes just can't get over that hill.
Yeah, and there's a we've spoken about this numerous times. It's kind of like you look at it like you look at the Atlanta Braves in baseball, right? They're a great regular season team, but man, when it comes to the playoffs, they just can't get it done.
Yeah, them and the Dodgers you could throw in
Right?
there, and
Yeah, you're
that's
right. Yeah,
yeah,
they're
that's a great example because I'll give you an example. FanDuel was offering this thing at the beginning before the MLB season started, where pick a team, place a future on a team to win the World Series, and every 10 games they win, you get a bonus credit, right? So I
uh
said,
huh.
screw it, I'm gonna take the Braves. Not because I think they're going to win the World Series, but because they have a very good chance of winning the World Series. And even if they don't, I know they're going to win 100 games.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I mean, and and the same could be said, of the Dodgers. Will they win 100 games? Maybe, maybe not, but they're always there. Now, whether they end up winning, it is what it is. But the Dodgers and the Braves are always there, just like the Lakers and the Warriors are always there. And the same thing can be said for hockey. There's a lot of school teams in hockey that, you can just pencil them in because they're going to be there. You may not be,
Oh
they
yeah,
may not win the division, but they're going to be there.
absolutely. Look at the Eastern Conference right now in the NHL. Obviously you have your Boston, your Leafs, your Lightning,
Hmm.
your Rangers, your Hurricanes.
Hmm.
They're all in there, and it was funny because that in the Metro, that third spot up until yesterday was up for grabs. Same with the
Hmm.
last wild card spot, which is still up for grabs. And it looked 2 weeks ago, it looked like we were going to get some fresh faces in the playoffs. Maybe we are going to have the Flyers back and the Red
Right.
Wings and some of these other teams. But come down the line 2 weeks later, here we are, the Islanders back in the playoffs, locked up that third seed. The Penguins have a chance with a win tonight to get that last wild card spot. And
Hmm.
it's like, look, it's great. I understand, that and or same with the Capitals, they have a chance
Yeah,
to
the
get in
Caps
there.
have to beat Philly.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like, look, it's great to see those guys, Crosby, Ovechkin, but I've seen them every year for the last like 20 years. I wanted some fresh faces, and sure enough, those inexperienced teams choked
Hmm.
down the line, and again, that's where the choking comes into play and the
Hmm.
playoff experience because the Penguins are 7-1-2 in their last 10
Hmm.
games. They've been on fire trying to get into this spot.
It's funny. I listened to the Caps last night, and John Walton, who's their broadcaster, said we're going to have to throw it back to the studio. This is like right after the game. Then you normally do an hour post game show, and John Walton, who's the radio voice of the team, said we have to throw it back to the studio because we're on a bus and headed to Union Station to take the train to Philadelphia so we can check into the hotel and get ready for tomorrow. And for for the Caps and for the Pens, you know whether or not they play golf tomorrow or whether or not they start looking for a playoff situation depends on how they play tonight.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel bad for our good friend of the show, Rye Cape, because everything that could have possibly went wrong for him
Oh my
yesterday
gosh.
went
Yeah.
went wrong. He came into the day. He said he literally told me, He was a Predators fan yesterday. He needed the Penguins to lose, the Islanders to lose, and the Red Wings to lose. Or sorry, and the Capitals to lose, not the Islanders. So the Red Wings, the Penguins, the Capitals to lose, and they all won their game. So the Flyers, they still have a chance, but they need a lot of help. That's for sure.
Well, when you have to worry about 4 teams, you don't need help. You need a miracle.
Yeah.
That just doesn't happen. Talking about miracles, it's early in Major League Baseball, no question about it. But the reigning champion Texas Rangers are being chased by 2 teams we absolutely knew were going to be there: the Angels and the Athletics. I mean, that's crazy. Los Angeles Angels and the Oakland Athletics are right there behind the Texas Rangers. And it's funny because the Rangers are 1 game above 500. The Angels are at 500, and then 3 games under 500 are the Athletics. So, it's one of those things where it's an anomaly at the beginning of the season. Those teams aren't going to be there at the end, but it's kind of crazy. Just like you look at the White Sox, and they have a record of 2-14. It's the worst start they've had in over 70 years.
Yeah, well, it's really funny because the Astros, for example, they always come out and usually have a slow start, but I don't think if you told anybody they're going to be 6-12 after 18 games that anybody would have believed you. But here they are at the bottom of the division, and it's funny because I hear a lot of people talking about how bad their pitching is and all that, and putting a lot of onus on the players, but nobody has really mentioned the fact that maybe the reason Houston's not doing so well this year is because Dusty Baker's gone. And we've talked about it many times. Look at what Bruce Bochy did last year in his first season with the Rangers. And obviously Dusty Baker, what he did in his first season with the Astros. So, say what you want. There's a lot of bad publicity out there about these teams that keep hiring these 80-year-old managers and things like that. But they obviously know a little something about managing the arms and the bullpen and things like that, because obviously Bruce Bochy was a big reason why the Rangers won the World Series last year. And if you look at the Astros after the sign stealing scandal, they brought in Dusty Baker for a little bit of good publicity, but they were still a phenomenal team for those last 2 years. And now this is when they really started to struggle with now that he's gone.
Let me give you a stat on Dusty. The last 6 years, the teams he's managed have averaged 94 wins.
Wow. There you go.
So, I don't know what you have to do to get fired, but I guess 94, you don't win the World Series, even though he did. It didn't keep him. But then again, I think Dusty really wanted it out, but Bruce Bochy came back and as you say, and there's probably not a better manager of pitchers than Bruce Bochy, and that's what helped the Rangers get there, because they had 2 guys that were reigning were past Cy Young Award winners that were on the mend. So he had to win a World Series without arguably 2 of his top pitchers. And he did.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what? They still don't really have them yet, and they're off to another hot start this season.
Yeah,
so
that's a good point. So, and the Braves are right there at the top, as you had mentioned and expected. But how about, and we talked about this too. Here's the Pirates tied with the Brewers atop the Central Division. Now, will they be there? At the end of the day, at crunch time, probably a lot of the players will be, but they won't be on the Pirates. So, it's crazy. It's an absolute.
We'll see what happens with those Pirates. I know I've been trashing them a lot, but I said they were going to be good in the first few. And we'll see what happens when we get to the trade deadline. The Brewers, though, everybody had the Brewers at the bottom of this.
Yeah, they were
division.
Dogs.
And they've come out and they've been impressive. And specifically with their offense, they've been impressive.
Mm-hmm. Yesterday I got a text, and it said, "You got to call me. I need to tell you something." I'm like, okay. Call someone who's a truly expert in the college football realm, lives in Miami, told me I've been to 5 practices and Cam Ward and Miami is going to win the ACC. And I'm like, okay. He said, seriously. He says, Cam Ward is is running this offense like I've not seen since the days of Jimmy Johnson and Howard Schnellenberger and those offenses in Miami.
Well, look,
So
I'm sure
Cam
he's
Ward,
great.
is a guy who we thought, you know, should land on his feet somewhere, and he seems to be tearing up Miami. Of course, now it's just a spring game and you're just spring practices, but you can learn a lot in those things. And the funny thing is, as you mentioned, is that when Cam Ward got there, Cam Ward took that team over, and he's the leader of the team, which is a stunning situation given the fact that he was a portal guy, and B just showed up. Nobody has a clue what he was going to do or how it was going to work out. But it seems to, at least for now, look like Cam Ward is going to pay dividends in Coral Gables.
Yeah, I'm sure he looks great in practice and things like
Yeah,
that. But and I love Cam Ward. We were talking about
yeah.
how Washington
We gave
State,
him props.
yeah, Washington State, they could have been dangerous last year, but
Hmm.
obviously they weren't. That doesn't take away from how great a player he is. But look, I will believe it when I see it. We're still
Yeah,
talking about a team with a coach who wants to run the ball on kneel plays. So like I look, coaching matters. I'll believe it when
right.
I see it because the fact of the matter is Cam Ward could go out there and play his ass off and put up 45 points, but they could still lose 52 45 or
Well,
something like that, right? There's a
there's an
lot of
old saying.
factors to a
Yeah,
team.
there's an old saying that bad coaches can make good players look bad,
Yeah.
and that may very well be the case with Cam Ward. I've also heard good things about DJ Uyalungwe um, up at FSU. Although, that being said, not as glowing situation. So we will keep up, stick a pin in it, and we'll see how the Canes come out of there. And the funny thing is, the person who got in touch with me is not a Canes fan. So it's not like he's, passing this on and saying, but I think all of this boils down to something that is interesting, Coral Gables, and that is that um, the offense is not going to be called by Cristobal. The OC is going to have that opportunity. So Cristobal is giving up his play calling duties. And that might be very well just what you said, a good thing when you run on kneel down play.
Yeah. Well, the one thing they definitely have going for them is between Clemson's performance the last few years, what
Hmm.
happened with Florida State, and how they're bringing in a new quarterback now.
Hmm.
Obviously, the ACC is up for grabs.
Right.
That's definitely a given.
And nobody knows what Carolina's going to do.
Oh yeah, who knows? It's funny because North Carolina just like every year they're expected to be good. They have a great offense, not a great defense, and then they keep pumping out these guys that get drafted into the NFL and do nothing. Obviously, there was Sam Howell. Now Drake May
Yeah.
is like the shiny toy. So like we'll see what happens with these guys. I'm sure they'll somehow find a solid quarterback, but we'll see what kind of team they need. Defense is what they need.
Well, that's it. Mac's got a team out there that usually can score points, but they can't stop people from scoring points.
Pretty much.
And that's not a good idea. So we'll see. We'll have to see how that works from that standpoint. Okay, my friend, it's come to the time of the show that you know it's your opportunity to tell us what's going to happen.
Yeah, make sure you check out my premium picks at bigal.com, pickadvisor.com, and theinsidersroom.com. The links in the description below. Coming off a 6-4 day, I got tons of action today. You can get my Champions League play I got a play in Portugal on the pitch, as well as a play in Brazil and Argentina. I swept the board in Argentina yesterday, 4-0. So make sure you check out my action on the pitch. And I also have two great plays in the NBA tonight. I'm on a 10-0 NBA run that I ended the regular season with. So if you want to know what I'm on in both games tonight, then go check it out.
Very important thing to do, boys and girls. Always go see Uncle Amadeus. It will be good for you. One last thing before we go, and that is if you are in the Chicago area, and we know a lot of folks up there, the Blackhawks, the Bulls, and the White Sox will no longer, as of this fall, be on NBC Sports in Chicago. They have struck a deal with Stadium. That's the name of the company. If you live in Chicago, you know it. If you live outside Chicago, Stadium has many years been uh, a nice little network for college sports and some professional sports, but mainly college sports. It's based in Chicago, and Stadium has decided that they're going to get into the regional sports business, and so 50% of Stadium is owned by Jerry Reinsdorf, who happens to also own 50% of the Chicago White Sox and a minority stake in the Bulls. So, if you're in Chicago, keep a lookout because you're going to have a new place to watch your games come this fall, and it's going to be on Stadium and not on NBC Sports in Chicago. So there you go, boys and girls. Put a pin in that one too. All right, Amadeus. We've had a lot of fun talking about what's going on. We shall return tomorrow. Everybody have a lovely day. Until that time, I'm Jim. He's Amadeus. Have a good day.